Welcome to this deep dive. We've got a really interesting report today from Cognitive Market Research,
That's right.
and we're focusing on the global market for something called SIP trunking services,
Hmm.
looking at, where it is in 2025 and where it seems to be headed.
Mm.
Our goal here is really to cut through the jargon, the stats, and figure out what's driving this whole area of business communication, and maybe why it's more relevant to you listening than you might initially think.
Absolutely. And the numbers right out of the gate are pretty striking, aren't they? It shows this isn't some like niche technology anymore.
No, exactly. It feels fundamental. So, okay, SIP trunking. It sounds a bit technical, maybe a bit like alphabet soup.
It can sound that way.
Let's break it down real simple.
Right.
So, imagine your traditional business phone system, right? Connected with physical wires.
Yeah, the old way.
SIP trunking basically does the same job, but it uses your internet connection instead.
Over the internet.
Mm.
Simple as that, really.
Which usually means it's more flexible, often cheaper, too. So yeah, we're diving into this report. How big is this market? What's the growth look like? What's making it tick?
Well, the report gives us a pretty solid starting point. For 2025, the global market size for these SIP trunking services, it's projected at USD 72.48 billion.
72.48 billion. Wow.
Yeah.
That's already huge.
It's a very substantial base, yeah.
Okay, so that's the now. But you mentioned growth. This isn't staying still, is it?
Not at all. The forecast shows really strong consistent growth. They're projecting it to reach, get this, USD 215.62 billion by 2033.
Whoa. 215 billion.
Yeah. And that works out to a compound annual growth rate, a CAGR, basically an average yearly increase of about 14.6% between 2025 and 2033.
14.6% average growth year on year. That's more than just ticking up. That's really moving.
It really is. That kind of sustained climb points to a major shift in how companies are handling their communications.
Okay, so what's behind that? What are the main things pushing this forward?
The report points to a few key drivers, and they're kind of interconnected. First off, there's this rising demand for unified communication solutions,
Yeah.
UC platforms.
Right, the all-in-one things,
Yeah.
voice, video, messaging.
Exactly, all integrated.
Yeah.
And SIP trunking is, the piece that handles the voice part within those systems.
Okay, makes sense. What else?
Second, the big move towards cloud-based services and VoIP technologies, voice over IP, making calls over the internet.
Which everyone's doing now, more or less.
Pretty much. As businesses move more tools to the cloud, email, software, storage, it just makes sense for the phone system to go there too. It simplifies things.
Yeah, streamline the whole operation. Okay, so unified comms, cloud, and VoIP. Was there a third main driver?
Yes, and it's about flexibility. Enhanced scalability and flexibility for businesses.
Ah, getting away from those rigid old phone lines.
Precisely. Adding or removing traditional lines could be slow, cumbersome. SIP trunking, much more agile, need more capacity, need less. You can often adjust it really easily, almost instantly.
So better integration, using the internet for voice, and being able to scale up or down easily. That seems like a powerful combo. All right, let's talk geography. Where's the action happening?
Okay, regionally. North America is currently the big leader, holds the largest market share.
How much?
For 2025, it's projected over 40% of the global total. That's about USD 26.82 billion.
Wow, 40%. That's dominant.
It is. And it's still growing steadily, projected at a 13% CAGR through 2033.
Within North America, any standouts? Is it mostly the U.S.?
Yeah, the U.S. is definitely the giant within the region.
Yeah.
Projected at USD 21.16 billion for 2025. That's a 12.8% growth rate.
And the drivers there?
Report mentions widespread cloud communication adoption, plus the fact that many U.S. businesses were sort of early movers on hybrid work models.
Right, which demands flexible communication. What about Canada and Mexico?
Canada's significant too, about USD 3.22 billion in 2025, and actually growing a bit faster, 13.8% CAGR, driven by rapid digital transformation, lots of cloud adoption there. And Mexico's showing strong growth as well, around USD 2.44 billion market in 2025, with a 13.5% CAGR.
So North America's leading the charge for now. Where does Europe fit in?
Europe is number 2, holds over 30% of the global share. Market size for 2025 is projected at USD 21.02 billion.
Still very significant. And the growth rate?
Pretty strong too, 13.6% CAGR expected through 2033. But Europe's interesting because the picture varies quite a bit country by country.
Yeah, that makes sense. Different economies, different rules. So which European countries are big players here?
Well, the UK is a key market, projected at USD 3.53 billion in 2025, strong 14.4% growth.
What's driving it in the UK?
Things like regulatory compliance needs and a big focus on cost optimization seem to be pushing it there. Then you have Germany, even slightly bigger market size, USD 4.16 billion, growing at 13.8%,
And in Germany.
benefiting from industrial automation trends and really good high-speed internet infrastructure.
Okay. Any others?
Yeah, France is looking at about 1.93 billion, Italy 1.81 billion, Russia actually quite large at 3.26 billion. Then you have Spain, Sweden, Denmark, Switzerland, even Luxembourg, all showing healthy double-digit growth rates.
So it's really widespread across Europe. Are there common threads?
Yeah, definitely. Like we mentioned before, those unified communication platforms are big across Europe. Also, the rise of remote and hybrid work, similar to North America. And interestingly, data protection rules like GDPR are also a factor. Businesses want secure communication, and modern SIP trunking can help deliver that.
Right, security is key. Okay, let's shift focus eastward. The report mentioned Asia-Pacific having the fastest growth. That always catches my eye.
Absolutely. APAC currently holds around 23% of the global market. That's about USD 17.4 billion for 2025.
So smaller share than North America or Europe right now?
Correct. But the growth rate that's projected at 17.5% CAGR from 2025 to 2033. That is indeed the highest globally. Very dynamic.
17.5%. That's significantly faster. What's fueling that kind of acceleration in APAC?
It's a combination, really. A major factor is just the sheer speed of digital transformation happening in many economies there.
Right. Leapfrogging almost.
In some ways, yes. Plus, you've got rapidly improving internet connectivity. The rollout of 5G is a big enabler, too. And then there are government initiatives pushing digital infrastructure and just widespread adoption of cloud services by businesses big and small.
Which specific countries are leading the charge in APAC?
China is the largest market there, projected USD 7.31 billion in 2025, growing at 17%. Big drivers of 5G deployment and lots of startups adopting cloud telephony.
Okay.
But India shows the fastest growth within APAC, a really remarkable 19.4% CAGR. Market size about USD 1.74 billion in 2025.
Wow, nearly 20% growth year on year. What's behind that in India?
A lot of it is the expansion of their IT and business process management sectors, the whole IT BPM industry, plus a general preference shift towards internet-based communication.
Makes sense. Any other notable APAC markets?
Oh, yeah. Japan is significant, about 2.4 billion. South Korea, 2.09 billion. Australia, around 0.9 billion. Singapore, Taiwan. They're smaller but growing very fast, 17–18% range.
And Southeast Asia as a whole.
Also experiencing very strong growth, over 18% CAGR projected for the region. So yeah, APAC is definitely the one to watch for future momentum.
Absolutely. Okay, briefly, what about South America and the Middle East? Still significant growth there.
Yes, respectable growth. South America holds a bit over 5% of the global market. That's USD 2.75 billion in 2025, projected to grow at 15.3% annually.
And the main players there?
Brazil's the largest, around 1.18 billion, followed by Argentina. Drivers include investment in fiber optics, better internet, and especially in places like Argentina, the need for scalable comms amid economic uncertainty.
Okay. And the Middle East?
The Middle East is around 2% of the global market, about USD 2.90 billion in 2025, but growing quite fast at 16% CAGR.
Where's the growth concentrated?
Saudi Arabia and the UAE are key, driven by economic diversification efforts, big infrastructure projects, and a growing reliance on e-commerce and cloud tech. Turkey and Qatar also show strong potential.
Got it. And finally, Africa. Currently the smallest share, right?
That's right, around 1% of the global market. Size is about USD 1.59 billion in 2025, with a projected CAGR of 14.9%. So still growing healthily.
Where in Africa are we seeing the most activity?
South Africa is the largest market, about 0.56 billion, driven by telecom infrastructure investment and a growing remote work culture. Nigeria is another notable one, growing around 15%, partly fueled by its booming fintech sector needing cost-effective voice solutions.
Yeah.
Across the continent, though, the drivers are expanding internet infrastructure, better network reliability, and that gradual shift from older phone systems to IP-based ones.
So it really is a global phenomenon. North America and Europe leading, but APAC charging ahead, and solid growth pretty much everywhere else. Now let's switch gears slightly. Who exactly is using this stuff? The report breaks it down by business size, right?
It does, yeah. And it gives some interesting insights. When you look at enterprise size, Small and medium enterprises, SMEs, they're identified as the fastest growing category.
That is interesting. You might think the big guys with complex needs would be all over this first. Why SMEs growing fastest?
Well, for SMEs, the big draws are cost effectiveness and scalability. It's huge for them.
Right.
SIP trunking lets them access really efficient communication, better collaboration tools, wider reach, all without that massive upfront investment in hardware that traditional systems often required.
Levels of the playing field a bit.
Exactly. Plus, SMEs are generally embracing cloud tech and digital transformation anyway, so this fits right in.
Okay, so SMEs are adopting quickly. What about large enterprises? Are they still the main users?
Oh yeah, absolutely. While SMEs are the fastest growing segment, large enterprises still account for the dominant share of the overall market spend. Their communication needs are often just more complex, right? They have the resources to invest in really robust, high-quality solutions. And SIP trunking offers the reliability, scalability, and integration capabilities they need, especially with those unified communications platforms many already use.
So big companies need it for complex systems. Smaller companies love the cost and flexibility. Makes sense. Now, what about industries? Any particular sectors driving demand?
Yes, the report highlights end users too.
Hmm.
The fastest growing end user sector is identified as retail and e-commerce.
Ah, okay. Why them specifically?
It ties directly into the boom in online shopping, doesn't it?
Hmm.
Retailers need omni-channel strategies, phone, chat, email, everything connected. They need seamless integration of voice, video, messaging, all to improve customer service, support sales across all those touch points. SIP trunking helps enable that.
Yeah, managing all those customer interactions across different channels must be key. So retail is growing fast. Which industry is currently the biggest user overall?
The dominant end user right now is actually the IT and telecom sector itself.
Huh. Using their own medicine, so to speak.
Pretty much. I mean, these companies live and breathe communication, right? They have critical needs, rely on high-performance systems for internal stuff and talking to clients.
Of course.
So SIP trunking gives them the flexibility, cost-effectiveness, scalability they demand, plus things like better disaster recovery options compared to old phone lines. It's a natural fit to replace traditional infrastructure for them.
Okay, so IT and telecom are the biggest users. Retail commerce growing fastest. That gives a good picture. Let's dig into the market dynamics a bit more. The drivers, restraints, trends.
Sure. We've touched on some drivers already. The big ones the report emphasizes are
Mm-hmm.
that increased demand for cost-effective communication,
Definitely.
the expansion of remote and hybrid work models,
Huge shift there.
a growing preference for infrastructure that's flexible, scalable, reliable,
Hmm.
and of course that rising adoption of cloud services and unified communication platforms we talked about. These are all pushing SIP trunking forward.
All pointing towards more digital, more agile ways of working. But it can't all be smooth sailing. Are there roadblocks? Any restraints mentioned?
Yes, a couple of key ones. First, the initial integration costs can sometimes be a barrier.
Setting it all up?
Exactly. Even if it saves money long term, that upfront investment or effort to switch might hold some businesses back, especially
Ah.
smaller ones maybe.
Okay, that's understandable. What's the other one?
The other big one is security concerns.
Ah, right. Moving voice onto the internet.
Yeah. It potentially opens the door to similar risks as other online stuff. VoIP fraud, cyber threats, data breaches, service disruptions.
So businesses need to be confident the security is tight.
Absolutely. Ensuring robust security measures are in place is crucial for trust and continued adoption.
Definitely key considerations. Okay, looking ahead then, any emerging trends shaping the future of SIP trunking?
The report flags a few interesting developments. One is the growing use of AI and automation
How?
to help manage and optimize SIP trunking services. Think predictive maintenance, better traffic routing, maybe automated security responses could make things more efficient, more reliable.
Interesting. AI popping up everywhere. What else?
Pricing models are evolving. We're seeing a shift towards more flexible options like pay-as-you-go or subscription-based tiers.
Giving businesses more control over costs.
Exactly. More adaptable to their actual usage.
Yeah.
And finally, the ongoing expansion of 5G networks is seen as a big plus.
Faster speeds, lower latency.
Right, which should enhance the performance and reliability of SEPI trunking even further, maybe enabling new use cases too.
AI management, flexible pricing, 5G boost. Sounds like the technology is still evolving. Okay, last major area, the competitive landscape. Who are the main companies battling it out here?
It's a very competitive space, as you'd expect with this kind of growth. You've got a mix of players. There are the established telecom
The
giants,
household names.
right? And then you have newer, often more cloud-focused agile providers who've come in.
So a real mix. What are they competing on?
Primarily service quality, reliability, expanding their geographical footprint, and integrating more modern features, not just voice, but adding video, collaboration tools, APIs for integration.
And how are they trying to get ahead?
We're seeing a lot of strategic moves. Partnerships are common, mergers and acquisitions too, as companies try to consolidate, gain scale, or acquire specific technologies.
The report gave some recent examples, didn't it?
It did, just to illustrate, like in October 2024, a company called Trunk Inc. launched something called SuperTrunk,
Supertrunk. What's that?
basically designed for better voice resilience using backup SIP trunks on different networks, so more reliable calls.
Okay, reliability focused.
Then Vonage, back in July 2024, introduced intelligent SIP capabilities using AI for enhanced voice interactions.
There's that AI again.
Yep. Going back a bit further, January 2022, Twilio partnered with Teleperformance on cloud contact center solutions. Fusion Connect, November 2021, expanded its service guarantee. And 8x8 did a distribution deal with SYNX in August 2021 to widen access to their platform.
So lots of activity. Innovation, partnerships, guarantees. Everyone's trying to carve out their niche or strengthen their position.
Exactly. It shows how dynamic the market is right now.
Okay, fantastic overview. So let's try and wrap this up. What are the sort of main takeaways from this deep dive into the SIP trunking world based on the report?
Well, I think the clearest takeaway is that SIP trunking isn't just some technical back-end thing anymore. It's a huge and rapidly growing global industry.
Right. Billions and billions.
And that growth is fundamentally driven by businesses needing communication that's more flexible, more cost-effective, and crucially, integrated with all their other digital tools.
And we're seeing that play out globally, but especially fast in.
Especially fast in the Asia-Pacific region.
Yeah.
And in terms of users, the SME segment is adopting it really quickly, even though large enterprises are still the biggest spenders.
So what does this all mean for you listening in? Why should you care about SIP trunking?
Well, whether you're maybe running a business and thinking about your phone systems, or you're an IT professional just trying to stay on top of tech trends, or maybe you're just curious about how business is changing. Understanding SIP trunking gives you real insight
Insight into what specifically?
into the future of how businesses communicate. It's becoming, a really essential piece of the modern business puzzle. Less of an option, more of a standard way of operating.
Right. So maybe a final thought to leave people with. As cloud tech keeps advancing, 5G gets faster, AI gets smarter, how might services like SIP trunking change even more? Could they blur the lines further between, say, a phone call and other digital interactions?
That's a great question. You can imagine even tighter integration with collaboration platforms, AI assistants handling more call functions.
Yeah.
It definitely feels like the lines will continue to blur.
What new possibilities might that unlock for businesses, or even just for how we connect generally? Something to ponder, I suppose.
Definitely a space worth watching.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the SIP trunking market. We hope you found it useful. We definitely encourage you to keep exploring this topic and the broader shifts happening in unified communications.